In the world of ultra-luxury cars, very few names carry as much power and prestige as Bugatti. The brand is known for building some of the fastest, most expensive, and most exclusive cars ever made. Owning a Bugatti is not just about having a car. It is about being part of a very controlled and elite world. Every detail, from how the car is driven to how it is repaired, is carefully managed by the company. That is why the situation involving Matt Armstrong has become so unusual and important. What started as a crashed Bugatti Chiron Pur Sport has now turned into a global story watched by millions online. Instead of staying a private matter between the owner and the manufacturer, the rebuild of this car is happening in public, step by step, on YouTube. This has created a situation where Bugatti's usual control is being challenged. Each update from Matt Armstrong does not just show progress on a car, it raises questions about how much control a company should have after selling a product. For Bugatti, this is unfamiliar territory. They are used to quiet customers, private repairs, and full authority over their vehicles. Now, they are facing a very different reality, where every decision they make is being watched, discussed, and sometimes criticized by a global audience. The story becomes even more interesting when we look at how it all began. The car in question was originally owned by a buyer known as FXG, who purchased the Bugatti Chiron Pur Sport like many wealthy collectors do. Normally, if such a car is badly damaged, the owner either accepts the insurance loss or sends it back to Bugatti for repair, no matter how expensive it is. This has been the unwritten rule in the hypercar world for years. But FXG made a very different decision. After the crash, instead of walking away or following Bugatti's system, he bought the damaged car back and chose to repair it independently. This alone was unusual, but what made it truly groundbreaking was a decision to document the entire process publicly. By working with Matt Armstrong, a YouTuber known for rebuilding cars, FXG turned a private repair into a public experiment. Suddenly, people around the world could see what it really takes to fix a car that Bugatti claims should only be handled by their own experts. This decision changed everything. It turned a simple accident into a major discussion about ownership rights, repair freedom, and whether luxury brands have too much control over the product they sell. Another important part of this situation is what Bugatti could have done early on to avoid all this attention. When the crashed car was sent to auction, the company had a chance to buy it back. This is not something new in the hypercar industry. Companies like Koenigsegg have been known to quietly purchase damaged cars to keep them out of public hands. This helps them protect their image and make sure repairs are done under their supervision. If Bugatti had taken this step, the story might have ended before it even began. The car would have been either rebuilt privately or used for parts, and no one outside the company would have known much about it. However, Bugatti chose not to act at that moment. Whether it was a financial decision or simply not seen as necessary at the time, that choice allowed the car to enter the public space. Once it was in the hands of independent builders, the company lost a level of control that it had always maintained. Looking back, this moment feels like a turning point. A relatively small decision at the time has now led to a situation that is much bigger and more complex than anyone expected that as the rebuild process continued. Bugatti faced another key decision: how to respond publicly. At first, they could have stayed silent and simply refused to provide parts. This would not have been surprising, as many manufacturers limit access to certain components. But instead of staying quiet, the situation became more visible when Matt Armstrong spoke about the issue. He explained the company's concerns, especially around safety and the complexity of repairing such a high-performance machine. From Bugatti's point of view, this made sense. These cars are not like normal vehicles. They are extremely advanced and require precise engineering. However, by explaining their position in detail, Bugatti opened the door for public debate. Now, every claim they made could be examined, questioned, and tested by viewers watching the rebuild. What was meant to defend the brand instead gave more attention to the project. It also created a situation where people began comparing Bugatti's statements with what Matt Armstrong was actually achieving in his workshop. This back and forth turned a technical issue into a much larger discussion about trust, transparency, and control. One of the most talked about aspects of this story is a question of whether Bugatti's strict repair rules are truly necessary. The company argues that their cars require specialized knowledge, tools, and parts to ensure safety and performance. This is a strong argument, especially considering the extreme speeds and engineering involved in a Bugatti. However, as the rebuild progresses, viewers are seeing many parts being repaired, replaced, or source in ways that seem possible outside the official system. This does not mean Bugatti is wrong, but it does raise questions. For example, when basic components like lights or modules are discussed, people begin to wonder why they are so tightly controlled. Each successful step in the rebuild adds to this curiosity. It creates a feeling that maybe some restrictions are not just about safety, but also about maintaining control over servicing and repairs. This is a sensitive topic, especially in today's world where the right to repair is becoming more important. The Bugatti situation has unintentionally become part of that larger conversation, but at the same time, it is important to understand Bugatti's side of the story. These cars are not ordinary products. They are complex machines built to very high standards, and any mistake in repair could have serious consequences. If a rebuilt car fails at high speed, the risks are enormous, not just for the driver but for others as well. Repaired Bugatti on the road could damage their reputation, even if they were not responsible for the repair. This creates a difficult situation for the company. On one hand, they want to protect their customers and their brand. On the other hand, they are now facing a public example that challenges their authority. No matter what they say or do, it is being judged in real time by millions of viewers. This makes every decision more complicated and increases the pressure on the company to respond carefully. Meanwhile, for Matt Armstrong, this project has become one of the biggest moments of his career. Each video update attracts huge attention, not just from car enthusiasts but from general audiences as well. People are interested in the technical challenge, the drama, and the larger questions behind it. The rebuild is no longer just about fixing a car. It is about proving what is possible. Every time a new part is installed or a problem is solved, it feels like progress in a much bigger story. This is why each update creates so much discussion online. Some viewers support Bugatti and believe the rebuild should not happen. Others support Matt and see him as challenging an overly strict system. This divide keeps the story alive and growing. It also shows how powerful online platforms have become. A single YouTube channel can now influence how people think about even the most exclusive brands in the world. In the end, this situation highlights a major shift in how luxury brands interact with the public. In the past, companies like Bugatti operated behind closed doors, with full control over their products and their image. Today, that control is harder to maintain. Social media and online content have created a more open environment where actions can be seen and questioned by anyone. The Bugatti and Matt Armstrong story is a perfect example of this change. It shows that even the most powerful brand can face challenges when their systems are exposed to public view. Whether Bugatti truly regrets the situation or not, there is no doubt that it has become a learning moment for the entire industry. It raises important questions about ownership, responsibility, and transparency. And as the rebuild continues, one thing is certain. The story is not over yet, and each new update will keep adding to this fascinating and evolving situation as the rebuild moves forward. The situation continues to grow in ways that go beyond just one car or one company. What makes this story so powerful is how it connects to a bigger global conversation about ownership and control. When someone buys a product, especially something as expensive as a Bugatti, what rights do they truly have? Can they repair it however they choose, or must they always follow the manufacturer's rules? These questions are not new, but they are becoming more important in today's world. The Bugatti Chiron project has become a real-life example of this debate. Each video update from Matt Armstrong shows another step in the process, another challenge solved, and another moment that makes people question long-standing industry practices. For viewers, it feels like watching a barrier slowly being broken. For companies like Bugatti, it raises concerns about how much control they can realistically maintain in the future. The more transparent the process becomes, the harder it is to keep traditional systems unchanged. This is why the story continues to attract attention. It is not just about a rebuild, but about a shift in how people think about technology, ownership, and freedom. Another key element that keeps the audience engaged is the uncertainty of the outcome. Unlike a typical car rebuild, where the goal is simply to get the vehicle running again, this project carries much higher stakes. Every step comes with risk, both technically and reputationally. If the rebuild fails, it could support Bugatti's argument that such work should only be done by experts in controlled environments. But if it succeeds, it could change how people view the company's strict policies. This uncertainty creates tension, which is essential for keeping viewers interested. Each episode becomes a new chapter in an ongoing story, where the ending is still unknown. At the same time, the audience is not just watching, They are forming opinions, discussing details, and even taking sides. Some viewers carefully analyze each technical step, while others focus more on the larger message behind the project. This mix of entertainment and real-world impact is what makes a series so effective. It turns a mechanical process into a story with emotional and intellectual depth. It is also worth noting how this situation reflects the changing role of media and influence. In the past, large companies controlled most of the information about their products. Today, independent creators can share their own experiences with millions of people instantly. This shift has reduced the gap between corporations and the public. In the case of Bugatti, their traditional way of managing information is now being challenged by a single YouTube channel. This does not mean the company has lost its authority, but it does mean that authority is no longer unquestioned. Every claim can be tested, every statement can be discussed, and every decision can be analyzed in real time. This level of transparency is both powerful and risky. For viewers, it provides insight and understanding. For companies, it creates pressure to be more open and consistent. The Bugatti situation shows how quickly a controlled narrative can change when new voices enter the conversation. At the same time, this story highlights the importance of perception. In business, how something looks can be just as important as what is actually happening. Even if Bugatti's concerns are valid, the way those concerns are communicated can shape public opinion. For example, refusing to supply even basic parts can appear strict or even unfair, especially to viewers who do not fully understand the technical reasons behind such decisions. On the other hand, Matt Armstrong's approach, showing every step, explaining challenges, and celebrating progress, creates a sense of openness and honesty. This difference in communication styles plays a big role in how each side is viewed. It shows that in today's world, transparency and storytelling can be just as important as expertise. Companies that fail to adapt to this reality may find themselves misunderstood, even if their intentions are good. This is one of the deeper lessons that can be learned from the entire situation. Looking ahead, the long-term impact of this story could be significant. If the rebuild is completed successfully, it may encourage other car owners to explore independent repairs, even for highly complex vehicles. This could lead to changes in how manufacturers approach parts availability and service policies. On the other hand, if problems arise later, it could reinforce the idea that certain systems should remain under strict control. Either way, the outcome will influence how both companies and customers think about the future. For Bugatti, this may become a moment of reflection where they reconsider how they balance control with customer freedom. For the wider automotive industry, it may serve as a case study in how quickly situations can evolve in the digital age. What started as a single accident has now become a topic of global discussion, showing how connected and influential today's world has become. In conclusion, the ongoing rebuild of the Bugatti Chiron Pur Sport is more than just a technical project. It is a symbol of change. It represents the growing tension between traditional systems and modern expectations. Through the work of Matt Armstrong, millions of people are seeing a side of the automotive world that was once hidden. At the same time, Bugatti is facing a challenge that goes beyond engineering or business. It is about adapting to a new level of visibility and public engagement. The story is still unfolding, and its final impact is yet to be seen. But one thing is clear: it has already changed how people think about cars, ownership, and the balance of power between companies and customers. As each new update is released, the conversation will continue to grow, making this one of the most fascinating automotive stories of our time. Today, as the story moves toward a conclusion, it becomes clear that its impact goes far beyond a single rebuild or a single company. What started as a crashed hypercar has turned into a powerful example of how the automotive world is changing. The project led by Matt Armstrong has shown millions of people that even the most complex and exclusive machines can be understood, taken apart, and rebuilt outside the traditional system. At the same time, Bugatti has found itself in a situation where its long-standing approach to control and exclusivity is being questioned in public. This does not mean Bugatti is wrong or that independent repair is always a better path. Instead, it highlights a deeper truth. There is a growing demand for transparency, flexibility, and trust between companies and customers. People no longer want to simply accept rules without understanding them. They want to see, learn, and decide for themselves that in the end, there may not be a clear winner or loser in this situation. Bugatti will continue to build some of the most advanced cars in the world, and their expertise will always carry great value. At the same time, creators like Matt Armstrong are showing a new way forward, where knowledge is shared openly and challenges are explored step by step. The real outcome of this story is a conversation it has created. It has encouraged people to think differently about ownership, repair, and the balance of power between brands and buyers. As the final stages of the rebuild approach, one thing is certain. This is not just the end of a project, but the beginning of a new way of thinking in the automotive world. And whether people are watching for the engineering, the drama, or the bigger message, this story will be remembered as a turning point where tradition met transparency, and the results changed the conversation forever. Even after the rebuild reaches its final stage, the ripple effects of this story are likely to continue for a long time. What has happened here is not just about one car being repaired. It is about a shift in how people interact with technology and the brands behind it. For decades, companies like Bugatti operated in a world where their decisions were rarely questioned in public. Their customers trusted them, followed their systems, and accepted their rules as part of owning something so exclusive. But now, that dynamic is changing. With creators like Matt Armstrong sharing detailed processes online, the gap between expert knowledge and public understanding is becoming smaller. People are no longer satisfied with being told what can or cannot be done. They want to see proof, explore alternatives, and form their own opinions. This shift is not limited to cars. It reflects a broader change happening across many industries where transparency and access are becoming more important than ever before. For future car owners, especially those interested in high-end vehicles, the situation may influence how they think before making a purchase. Some may feel more confident knowing that independent repair could be possible, even for extremely complex machines. Others may still prefer the security and assurance that comes with manufacturer-controlled servicing. Either way, the awareness created by this story will remain. It has opened the door to discussions that were once limited to small groups of experts but are now part of mainstream conversation. For manufacturers, this means adapting to a world where information spreads quickly and public perception can change overnight. It also means finding a balance between protecting the technology and respecting customer independence. This balance will not be easy to achieve, but it is becoming increasingly necessary in a connected world. From a broader perspective, this story also shows the power of storytelling itself. Companies that understand this can connect better with their audience, while those that rely only on traditional communication may struggle to keep up. In this case, the open and detailed approach has given the project a level of influence that few would have expected at the start. Ultimately, the rebuild of this Bugatti Chiron Pur Sport will be remembered not just for its technical achievement, but for what it represents. It stands as an example of how modern technology, media, and curiosity can come together to challenge long-standing systems. It shows that even in industries built on tradition and control, change is always possible when new ideas and perspectives are introduced. As time goes on, this story will likely be discussed as a moment when the balance between manufacturers and customers began to shift in a visible and meaningful way. Whether viewed as a bold experiment, a controversial challenge, or simply an incredible rebuild, its impact is already clear. It has changed conversations, raised important questions, and left a lasting mark on the automotive world that will not be easily forgotten.